Bhagavat Parampara, you can also call it a Shiksha Parampara. So the Bhagavat Parampara includes both the book and the devotee, an acharya who teaches the book by his personal exemplar. What's the English word exemplar? It's equivalent to the Sanskrit word acharya, the one who teaches by example. Here's a snippet from Bhagavatam 10.2.31 purport. Quote, the Acharya Sampradaya is strictly bona fide. Therefore, one must accept the Acharya Sampradaya. Otherwise, one's endeavor will be futile. All right, I hate to see you stuck off in the corner.
Huh?
I hate to see you stuck way back there in the dark. Is that, you're not stuck? No? Okay.
I'm very new.
All right. I remember in Bhakti Sangam you dropped by and you were also in the far corner of that auditorium. Okay. Oh, by the way, this particular lesson from the series, you're going to hear echoes of Ravindra Swarup Prabhu came here, right? And he taught some seminar about his booklet he wrote, the Founder Acharya booklet. Yeah? So this lesson, some of our research overlaps. So you're going to hear some of the same things, but you're going to hear some new things too. Okay, so as we'll see in this lesson, it is from the Acharya Sampradaya culture, a culture of exemplars, people who live the teachings, practice what they preach. That the Founder Acharya phrase emerges in our Gaudiya Vaishnava line. So let's explore the origin and evolution of, as Ravindra calls it, this complex English, Sanskrit, hybrid compound. You have an English word, which is kind of an organizational word, founder, and you have acharya, which has spiritual overtones, someone who teaches by example. Let's look at the origin of it, and here we go. Boy, the sun is our friend, but the sun is also laughing at us because he's washing out some of the screen. Can you see it all right?
Yes.
Okay, see, I'm looking at a better image, so... All right, raise your hand. Who are they? No, I said raise your hand, so you raised your hand. Very good. You know who they are? Very good. Yes, Shad Goswami Prabhus. Why don't you read that, Manaji?
In the 16th century, after the disappearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his chief disciples, the six Goswamis of Vrindavana, founded the Vishwa Vaishnava Rajya Sabha.
Let's find out what that means. This is defined. Vishwa Vaishnava Raj Sabha. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta defined it. Do we need a mic? I guess you can read the screen, so even though the voices are soft, perhaps we don't need an audience mic.
There is a mic, don't you? Have a mic.
Yeah. You do? All right. Okay, I'll tell you if you need it. Okay, so read that, Mataji. Okay, he's going to give you a mic. I don't know if I really need it, but...
Press the button and hold for 3 seconds.
Yeah, hold it.
The Vishwa Vaishnava Sabha is the gathering of devotees who worship the King of all Vaishnavas in the world, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Okay, so it's the Sabha, the gathering, the congregation, the assembly of devotees who worship the Vishwa Vaishnava Raj, the King of the world's devotees, and that's Lord Chaitanya. So within, say, a dozen years of Lord Chaitanya's disappearance, something organized happened. Oh no, organized religion. Well, maybe someone can help me with this quote. I believe it was Saraswati Thakur who confirmed that organized religion is a necessary evil. Have you ever read that, Maharaj? Yeah, because if you don't organize, you can't really have much impact, as we were hearing today about unity. You can't accomplish much. But as soon as you do organize, then you're prone to the foibles of organizations, bureaucracy, and people get attached to position and fighting and all this stuff, but what to do? So we have to be as good a followers as we can. So within a dozen years after Mahaprabhu disappeared, when did he disappear by the Christian calendar? Raise your hand. I see different dates for this. I've been seeing 1533 a lot, but the date I always heard was 1534. Yeah, anyway, whatever it is. So, within a dozen years of Mahaprabhu's disappearance, something organized started. The 6 Goswamis, who were Lord Chaitanya's chief disciples, they were deputed to articulate, elaborate, expand the teachings, which they did beautifully, especially Sri Jiva, most prolific of the Goswamis, 4 lakh verses, 400,000 verses, 4 Mahabharatas worth of verses. He emerged as the biggest organizer. He organized the Sri Sri Radha temple, and he organized all the works of the Goswamis to be copied and very carefully preserved in a library there. He started the first book distribution party, as we know, by sending Shyamananda and Narottam and Srinivas out with a big trunk of books. That was a big drama. So an organizational seed of the founder Acharya principle in the Gaudiya line it emerged right soon after Mahaprabhu disappeared. So that's circa 1540s, and then we go to early 1550s. Another seed emerges, and that's a depiction of Srila Rupa Goswami, Kandiya Kandiya, weeping and weeping and writing and writing. And circa 1552, Sri Rupa finished his masterpiece, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Let's see. You got the mic? Do we need the mic? Maybe we don't even need
No.
it. Okay. Forget it. We'll save it for question and answer. Is the battery off? Good. Okay. Prabhu, why don't you read that?
In his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami identified the 4th principle of devotional service as Sadhu Vartmanu Vartanam, which Srila Prabhupada later translated in the Nectar of Devotion as following in the footsteps of great acharyas, teachers, under the direction of the spiritual master.
Right. Prabhupada, both there, and Rupa Goswami, both there, and in the introduction, he makes this distinction. We learned in the first lesson how Guru is one, Gurus are one in one sense because they repeat the message of Krishna, but they also differ, right? According to the role they play in our lives, the qualifications they have, they're on different levels of advancement, and the commitment they make to different kinds of disciples. So there is a difference between what Prabhupada called a regular guru. In one place he even said ordinary guru. You'll see that in lesson 3. Sounds like a contradiction. It's no ordinary thing to be a guru. And a great acharya. How does Prabhupada put it here in the introduction to NOD? He says, quote, "In our mental activities, we should always try to think of Krishna and try to plan how to please him, following the footsteps of the great acharyas and the personal spiritual master." So this beta, or this distinction, sowed a philosophical seed for founder Acharya. Then I make a little observation here. As a child may see his parents as everything at first, but then matures to see them in perspective, so a disciple may see his spiritual parents and relatives as everything at first, but then matures to appreciate them in relation to the great acharyas. So now let's look at how one famous disciple saw his great initiating guru in relation to an even greater acharya. So far we have found, an organizational seed, a philosophical seed, a founder acharya, and now we're going to see a cultural seed, we can call it. This is depicting whom? Narottam. Yeah, I don't know how they got the image, but that's Narottam according to Google Images. So circa 1560 now, within pretty short order, we have 3 seeds. This is another seed, a cultural seed. Circa 1560, most scholars agree that Narottam finished his famous song collection, Prarthana. whose songs we sing every day in our temples. Sri Guru Vandana, Sri Guru Charana Padma. In Mayapur they sing Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu. That's Prarthana. And then when someone disappears, Ye Anilo Prema Dhanna. That's Prarthana. Now, let's see. Who remembers, who can tell us how Narottam took initiation? You remember the story, how that went? Anybody know? Prabhu?
He wanted to take initiation from Lokanath.
Yes, Lokanath had made a vow. I'll get back to you. We're going to take turns doing this. Sri Jiva had 3 prize pupils in his little school, and they were Shyamananda, Srinivas, and Narottam. So Jiva noticed that even though he was the Shiksha Guru of Narottam, that Narottam had already given his heart to Lokanath. So Jiva says, Narottam, I want you to approach Lokanath Goswami for Diksha. Even though both of them knew that Lokanath had made a vow never to accept disciples, because after Mahaprabhu left, he was so devastated, he just withdrew and he said, I'm not going to initiate anybody, I'm just going to retire. But Narottam dutifully approached him and said, Maharaj, please accept me as your disciple. And Lokanath refused. No, you know I don't take disciples. End of story, right? But Narottam, he's the son of a king, he's a prince, and he knows that by his birth, he's born into privilege, that there's some pride connected with that. So he determines in his mind, I'm going to do some menial service for Guru Maharaj, even though he won't accept me, to purify me of my false pride. So then what does he do?
He cleaned his toilet, you can say.
Right, he makes up his mind that before Lokanath Goswami does his morning ablutions, he's going to go there and make the earth all nice and fix the water nice. And so he does that. And then what happens? You can speak into the...
In the end, Lokanath Swami accepts him.
Okay, we're jumping to the end. In the Rotam Vilas, it says that the first day it happened, that Lokanath, who's done this? But he was so kind of detached and renounced that he said, whatever, and he just did his business. But this went on, day after day after day, for a whole year, it says in the Rotam Vilas. And finally, after a year, Lokanath Goswami is thinking, well, I'm supposed to be a renunciate and I'm accepting service from this person, whoever this person is, but enough is enough. I'm going to find out who's doing this. So it says in the Rotam Vilas that he hid behind a tree one morning, and he went earlier than usual. He went an hour before his time, just to catch who was ever doing it in the act, right? And sure enough, out of the shadows and the kind of the half moonlight comes Narottam to do his seva, his secret seva, and then Lokanath can't quite see who it is. Who is that? And then Narottam comes. Narottam, it is you! And then Narottam just falls flat. Please accept me as your disciple. There's no meaning to my life unless you accept me as your disciple. Very reminiscent of 300 years later when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta approaches Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji. Same kind of mood. There's no meaning to my life. I may as well not live anymore. No, I'm sorry. You know I don't accept disciples. Now here's where I need to find out a detail, because I believe Mahaprabhu had come already to Lokanath in a dream and instructed him to accept Narottam. Have you read that somewhere? I've got to pin this down. So, but he was torn because he had made this vow. But in this case, Narottam was so sincere and insistent that Lokanath did make an exception. All right, I will accept only you, only one disciple. So they were very close. Does anybody have a parent of an only child in the room? Yeah, anybody have an only? Okay, me too. So when it's only one child, then the attachment is especially strong, because it's the only one you have. So you can imagine how close they were, guru and disciple. And yet, Let's see, Prabhu, why don't you read this?
In his Prarthana collection, Srila Narottam Das Thakur wrote in the fourth verse of Psalm 17 a song to Srila Rupa Goswami.
Prabhu Lokanatha Kabde Sangelanya Jabe Shri Rupera Pada Padme More Samarpibe, which means,
When will my Lord and Master, Lokanath Goswami, take me with him and place me at the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami?
Wow. When will my Prabhu Lokanath take me to the lotus feet, place me at the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, because who was Srila Rupa Goswami now in this Vishva Vaishnava Raj Sabha? This is the Sampradaya that had started from Lord Chaitanya, this Gaudiya Sampradaya. Ever since Rupa Goswami had published Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, what did they call him? Do you know? What did they call him? He wasn't the eldest Goswami. That was Sanatana. He wasn't famous as being the most renounced like Raghunath Das, or the most prolific like Sri Jiva. But because of this book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he was immediately recognized as the chief, because Prabhupada writes, quote, this is CC Adi 5.203 purport, Srila Rupa Goswami is described as the Bhakti Rasacharya. They didn't have English in India yet. That was another 100 years or so when the British came. But he was recognized as his chief because he's the one who knows the essence of devotional service. His famous book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, is the science of devotional service. And by reading this book, one can understand the meaning of devotional service. As soon as the Vaishnavas read this book, wow, Sri Rupa, he really is the most expert at relishing the mellows, the tastes, the moods, the flavors of devotional service. So he became known as the chief of the six Goswamis. So when Narottam Das Thakur was praying to his Diksha Guru, his Prabhu Lokanath, when will he take me with him and place me at the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami? How do you think Lokanath Goswami felt about that? Do you think he felt circumvented, neglected, jumped over? How did he feel?
I think he felt that his disciple got him. I think he felt, my disciple, he gets me.
He gets me?
Yeah, he understands me. You know, I want to offer my disciples as servants to my
Yes,
spiritual
that's one of the functions of the spiritual master, the Shiksha Diksha Gurus. They're to enrich, enhance, and deepen their disciples' relationship with the foundational master of the line. And you're going to see powerfully as the lesson goes on how that works in other lines, and how we need to understand that principle more and more in ISKCON for us to really continue as a unified, uniting Prabhupada's family as a unified line. Yeah, he's very happy, he's very pleased, he's honored, he's privileged to bring his only disciple closer to Sri Rupa. Okay, so that's kind of a cultural seed, if you will. I'm still struggling with the word. A behavioral seed, I guess cultural seed. Now, those first three seeds, organizational, philosophical, and cultural, they appeared within the first 15 years of the founding of the Sri Vishva Vaishnava Raj Sabha. That's the first organization, name to the organization in the Gaudiya Sampradaya. We're going to have to fast forward over 300 years to get more seeds, because what happened in those ensuing centuries after, within 100 years, say, of Mahaprabhu's disappearance? What happened to our Gaudiya Sampradaya? Do you know? Can you raise your hand? Anybody know? Yeah?
I don't know, lots of upper sampradayas.
Yes! By Mahaprabhu's mysterious will, and we're going to see why in another lesson, the Bhakti Renaissance that Mahaprabhu brought to the world, he allowed it, Mahaprabhu allowed it to be eclipsed overshadowed, driven underground, even disgraced for hundreds of years. And it was only when our hero, Prabhupada called Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur the pioneer of the Krishna consciousness movement in the West, or in the modern world. How did he put it, Maharaj? Pioneer of the Krishna consciousness movement. I think in the modern age.
I know, I remember the pioneer, but I don't remember what it's called.
Yeah, I think it's the modern age. Anyway, it wasn't until the Thakur single-handedly. First, he had to find a copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita, because as the Thakur researched, he found that the whole sampradaya was just completely spoiled by no fewer than 13 counterfeit, imposter, bogus groups. Owls, bowels, Saki Bekis, Gauranga Nagaris, Siddha Pranalis, all these groups ruined it, to the point where by the 19th century, no self-respecting, especially Bengali Vaishnava, would touch bhakti, because it was considered to be a degraded path. But the Thakur found a manuscript finally in the Oriya language of Orissa, translated it, and he convinced the Bhadralok, the Bengali aristocracy, to take a fresh look at their own heritage and see that it's not true what the British are saying, that you're inferior, that your philosophy is inferior, your religion is inferior, your culture is inferior. No, this is actually the most sublime teaching. So the Thakur was such a super guru that he wrote 100 books, some in Bengali, some in Sanskrit, some in Hindi, some in English. And in 1900, let's see, how about Ramanath Sukha? Can you read that?
In his Bengali work, Harinam Chintamani, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur sowed the literary seeds of the future English Sanskrit phrase, founder Acharya. In chapter 6, disregarding the truth.
Yeah, there's a lot about guru, disciple, founder Acharya in Harinama Chintamani, which we didn't know until the late 1900s, because it was in Bengali. This was written in 1900. And here's some seeds from those verses. I'm just going to give you the seeds, and then I'll show you how they blossomed as the verses later in the lesson. Sampradaya Radhiguru. No, I just meant you to read the English, that's all. Sorry.
The original guru of the Sampradaya.
Shiksha Guru Pratishtita.
A Sampradaya instructing gurus.
Adyacharya Yadi.
One who is the original Acharya of a Sampradaya branch.
Guru Shiromani.
The crest jewel of all the gurus.
Yeah, there are the seeds. Yeah, there's we need the Adi Guru, and in our Sampradaya it's Lord Brahma. We need the previous Acharyas who act as great preceptors. And here's the actual Bengali for founder Acharya, the Adi Acharya, Adyacharya, Yani, one who is the original Acharya of a Sampradaya branch. And then we're going to see how he's the crest jewel of all gurus in his line. Okay, so that's the literary seeds. Now, the Thakur, he envisioned, he's a pioneer, he's a visionary, he envisioned the whole Hare Krishna movement, but he didn't have time to manifest it. So as we know, he prayed for his Raya Vishnu's son, who appeared as his fourth son by Srimati Bhagavati Devi as Bhimo Prasad Dutt, who grew up to be this amazing person, this Raya Vishnu called Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who in the 1920s, after his father and his guru passed away, began an English language version of Srila Bhakti Vinod's Sajjana Toshini called The Harmonist. And it wasn't in this issue, this first English issue, which appeared to be kind of an annual, but it was a few issues later that we find the founder Acharya phrase. How about Lavangalatik Maharaji reading that?
The English Sanskrit phrase, founder Acharya, first appeared in the Harmonist, the English Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Gaudiya Math.
Gaudiya Math. It was in the October 1930 issue, actually, of The Harmonist, if you've seen Ravindra Swarup's presentation, when the phrase actually appeared. And here is the page and the issue. Manaji, why don't you read from there down to here. It's not easy English. It's kind of, complicated English. Go ahead.
The Gaudiya Math is also identical with its founder Acharya. The associates, followers, and abode of his divine grace are limbs of himself. None of them claim to be anything but a fully subordinate limb of this single individual. This unconditional, causeless, spontaneous submission to the head is found to be not only compatible with, but absolutely necessary for the fullest freedom of initiative of the subordinate limbs.
Now, believe it or not, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and his educated disciples, they could also speak very simply too. But very often they would speak and write like this, because one of the strategies in those days was to out-intellectualize the Western intellectuals, because they wanted to establish Krishna consciousness as superior, especially amongst the intelligent class. This is actually, the editor of The Harmonist was a disciple of his named Professor Nishikant Sanyal, who became initiated as Bhakti Sudhakar Narayan Das. So that identifies, in effect, the founder Acharya as the life and soul of all his followers. As Prabhupada would say later, ISKCON's my body, you're all the limbs of my body. That makes him the soul of ISKCON. Similar idea. But the phrase, there it is, with two Y's no less, founder Acharya. After several hundred years, the phrase finally emerges after those literary seeds have been planted. But only the Gaudiya, educated Gaudiya Vaishnavas had read sufficiently to understand Saraswati Thakur's position. For example, so that was 1930, and then it was a few years later, in 1933, when the Gaudiya Math saw its finest hour of sending its preachers to England and Germany. But before Srila Bhaktisiddhanta would let them go, he insisted that they have a book of sufficient literary and philosophical excellence that they'd be able to present something substantial to the Western intellectuals. So Professor Sanyal, he wrote two actually of what was to be a trilogy, or at least one. The second volume was published just recently in 2004. So the projected trilogy was never completed, but at least they had the first volume of a book. And after Sanyal wrote the book, The Life and Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta took that manuscript and he hid away in one of these British hill stations, and he just edited the whole thing. So it was a collaborative effort from Sanyal and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Now, right in the elaborate table of contents of the book, we find out a little more about this founder Acharya principle. So let's pass the mic, or about Prabhu, why don't you just read?
The systems of Sri Vishnu Swami, Sri Nimbarka, Sri Ramanuja, and Sri Matva are connected with the ancient times by the recognition of the remote authority of the eternal ancient teachers, namely Lakshmi, Brahma, Rudra, and the four Kumars, respectively.
Okay, and?
The four founder acharyas of the Iron Age profess to preach the views of those original teachers of religion.
Okay, of the religion, yeah. Let's see how that looks. Sometimes we learn better by seeing it, so let's see how graphically how it looks. So here's Rudra, Lord Shiva, and he's very powerfully represented in our Kali Yuga by Vishnu Swami. Chatusana, the four Kumaras, represented by Nimbarka. Lakshmi or Sri, the Sri Sampradaya, especially powerfully by the Ramanuji, Sri Ramanuja. And then in R, Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, there's Sri Madhva. What's Madhva doing there? What's this all about? Is he flashing the victory sign? The peace sign? What is this? Raise your hand if you know. Yes?
It's
Dvaita. Yeah, there you go. You see, there's two. There's Ishwara and there's Jiva. He's on a real crusade against Mayavad. That's why if you go to... Has anybody been to Udupi? You've been? Yeah? So they like us. They like ISKCON. They know Prabhupada's also on a similar crusade, right? This is Pranam Mantra. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarni. So he's really powerfully against Mayavad. Now, Sanyal, when he wrote his book, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, he had also read, besides the Harinama Chintamani, he had also read Bhaktivinod's book in Bengali, published around 1890, called Navadviptam Mahatmya, which you probably have heard of, but it wasn't in English then, it was just in Bengali. So it's quite an amazing work, because in that book, Navadviptam Mahatmya, you have Bhaktivinoda Thakur envisioning a tour that Nityananda Prabhu, Sri Nityananda, is giving Jiva Goswami of the Dham. I mean, you've got to really be empowered to write something like that, right? It's Lord Nityananda having a conversation with Jiva Goswami about the holy places in Navadvip Dham. So, in one part of the book, Lord Nityananda describes how before these founder acharyas appeared, oh, there they are, Mahaprabhu appeared to each one of them, because he, of course, came later. And he said, now I'm going to appear, and after, when I appear, I'm going to take elements of each of your philosophies. You see these technical Sanskrit terms? Shuddha, Dvaita, 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 Vishishta, Dvaita, Dvaita. These are all describing different aspects of the relationship between the Supreme Lord and his energies. So Lord Chaitanya says, or it says in Navadviptam Mahatmya, when Lord Chaitanya was appearing, giving his darshan to these founder acharyas, quote, from Madhva, the Lord said, he would accept Madhva's complete defeat of the Mayavad philosophy and his service to the deity of Krishna. From Ramanuja, the Lord would accept the concept of bhakti, unpolluted by karma and jnana, as well as service to the devotees. From Vishnu Swami's teachings, he would accept the sentiment of exclusive dependence on Krishna, plus the path of raga bhakti, spontaneous devotion. And from Nimbarka, the Lord would embrace the necessity of taking shelter of Radha and the high esteem for the gopis' love of Krishna. So Sanyal had read this book, Navadviptam Mahatmya. Therefore, when he compiled Sri Krishna Chaitanya, he said in, I don't know if this is page 164 or shloka 164, but he says that each of those four Vaishnava founder acharyas, their philosophies, they're sound, they're correct, but they're incomplete. The philosophy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, however, quote, reconciles, harmonizes, and perfects the four founder acharya philosophies as, what's the Sanskrit for Lord Chaitanya's presentation? Achintya Veda Veda Tattva, right? The inconceivable simultaneous oneness and difference of the Lord and his energies. Okay, so now we're going to look at the powerful roles that founder acharyas play. Some of you have been to Udupi, huh? Okay, so when you go to Sri Krishna Mutt and you talk to the Vaishnavas, how do they identify themselves? As Dvaita? Okay, but who's their foundational guru? Madhva. When did he live?
Before he lived just
Yeah, he lived 1100s to 1200s. He lived about 70 years. Yeah. So, I mean, Madhva's seat is still there. You know, they worship the seat that he gave Bhagavatam from. Right? Ah. He's a ray of Vishnu. And they're really fixed on their founder Acharya, his life, his teachings, his mood, his mission. His form is powerfully displayed outside the temple with that, you know, Dvaita statement. And they'll tell you who their Diksha Guru is and their Shiksha Gurus, but they'll identify themselves as Madhvites. Now, he lived 800 years ago. How have they kept the line going for 800 years? I mean, you might wonder that, because we've been through a lot in the last 50 years, right? In the first 50 years of ISKCON's history. So how do they keep it going? Because they keep Madhva front and center. That's the point. How about Ramanuja? When did he live? I mentioned this already in class, but do you remember the dates? I'll give you a hint. Next year is his, what? Millennial. Yes, not centennial. Yeah. That might not work, maybe. I'm sorry. Kids in seminars, it's like oil and water. Right? Sorry. We'll see in 10 years. Yes, 1017 to 1137, 120 years. 1,000 years. Now, if you meet any self-respecting Ramanuji, how will he identify himself? You know, have you ever met a Ramanuji? What did he say?
They are very much focused on.
Yeah. Amiyan, Ramanuja Dasan. I am your servant, the servant of Ramanuja. They'll say in Sanskrit or Tamil. Now, so they really get it, you know, that Ramanuja, he wrote the Mahagranthas, the great books. It's like Prabhupada, we study Prabhupada's books every morning, right? And it's his Murti they worship. They've even miraculously preserved his Vapu, from what I hear. I haven't been to Sri Rangam. You've been to Sri Rangam, Maharaj? No? I hear they preserved his Murti there somehow. And then they execute his Vishishtadvaita mission. So that's how they keep together, because they're very fixed on their founder Acharya, and all the gurus who have come after him to carry on the line, what do? They enrich, enhance, and deepen their disciples' relationship with Ramanuja. So it's something we have to really understand more deeply, because, I mean, they're only local and regional, the Ramanujis and the Madhvas. You know, I mean, we're international. We have diversity coming out of our ears and eyes and nose and everywhere else. If we're going to go on for, you know, 100 years, 1,000 years, you know, 10,000 years, the golden age, we need to really understand the founder Acharya's position to bring more unity to the diversity. And we have powerful examples right from Varsh of how to do that. Okay, let's look at those literary seeds of founder Acharya in full bloom. Yes, Srila Bhaktivinoda's founder Acharya seeds in full bloom from the Harinama Chintamani. And who would like to read? Prabhu, you know how to read good English. All right, let's give him the mic on this one. This is... All right, so there you go.
One should first of all accept the instructions of the Sampradaya Adi Guru.
Right, that's the Bengali, and then?
The original Guru of the Sampradaya, and behave accordingly.
Okay, so we have to accept, who's our Adi Guru in the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya line? Brahma, right? We have a whole chapter, prayers by Lord Brahma, Tateno Kampam Susamikshimano, that's should be the guide of our lives, Prabhupada says. And behave accordingly. And?
In the disciplic succession of Vaishnavas, previous acharyas are established respectfully as Shiksha Gurus for the Sampradaya.
Yes, and Srila Prabhupada was always referring to the previous acharyas to provide confirmation of what he was presenting. And here it is, however,
the Adi Acharya, the founder Acharya,
there it is, Adi Acharya, the founder Acharya,
or original guru of a disciplic line, is appropriately worshipped and respected as the Guru Shiromani.
That's right.
The topmost crown jewel of the spiritual masters.
and
His perfect philosophical conclusions are to be followed by all in his succession. Any contrary instructions will not be accepted.
yes, the founder Acharya is the lens through whom we see all teachers and teachings. As soon as we start to see the founder Acharya through others' eyes, we're in another Sangam. For us, Prabhupada's, his spoken and his written word become the standard, the measure of all teachers and teachings. So that's what defines a real Prabhupada Nuga, whatever generation or zone or whatever God family. So to end the slides before we do Q&A, I'd like to present some symptoms of a founder Acharya as I found them in a nice book. I've already mentioned the book that Shivaram Swami, His Holiness Shiva Maharaj, wrote a book in 1999 called The Shiksha Guru. Very nice book, and it's actually more relevant than ever to try to help ISKCON develop its Shiksha culture. And there's a nice section in the book about the position of the founder Acharya, and Maharaj identified from his reading of Harinama Chintamani, translated. I'm not sure if he used Banu Maharaj's or Sarvabhavana Prabhu's, but he identified symptoms of a founder Acharya. So we'll take a look at some of those symptoms. How about Devaki Mataji? Why don't you give her the mic?
He possesses great spiritual strength.
Yeah, great. Unbelievable. I mean, we're going to see in the next lesson especially how, when Swamiji, as they call Prabhupada, was introducing Krishna consciousness, was starting to spread it, he was like doing everything, and they started to take it for granted. This is just the wonder of a pure devotee, that he's speaking and he's doing all the cooking and he's leading them out to the park for Sankirtan, and then and then he's staying up in the night and he's translating, he's sleeping, maybe 4 hours a night. Prabhupada's days and nights weren't like ours, where we might go out for a big block of time, but Prabhupada, he would kind of nap in between his seamless Shuddha Bhakti. Like Harishari Prabhu, he would report that, Prabhupada would go to bed at 10, and then he'd get up at midnight, and start translating. And then maybe after breakfast he'd take a half-hour nap, and then after lunch he might take an hour. He was just sort of non-stop. So he possesses great spiritual strength, and we couldn't keep up with him. We could have been his grandkids. We were young enough, he was old enough to be our grandfather. But he was really empowered by his Krishna prema. We say, even in the world, they say love can move mountains, right? We say in English, but what to speak of the highest levels of Krishna prema, how it can change the course of spiritual history. So possesses great spiritual strength. Mataji?
His teachings take precedence over all others and are compulsory for his followers.
Yes, now precedence is a tricky word. It doesn't mean that he thinks he surpassed the previous acharyas, but he's been empowered by them to take the sampradaya in a dynamic new direction. In Prabhupada's case, 14 times around the world, all over the world. Revitalize the sampradaya. But he never thinks that he's he's anything special, and that was always Prabhupada's mood. Completely transparent. There's an incident in Sri Chaitanya Chaitamrita where I think it's Vallabhacharya brings his tika, his commentary to Mahaprabhu, and he says that his commentary has surpassed the commentary of Srila Sridhar Swami. So, what's Mahaprabhu's reaction to that, Maharaj?
Mahaprabhu kept on describing to all the different Vaishnavas from whom he relished and took instruction. And one by one he went through them, citing how these personalities are nourishment in my devotional life. He blew all of that away.
And what was the real punchline? You remember there's a
punchline?
Yeah, there's a part where he says,
But one who's not accepted the Swami? Prostitute.
yeah, Swami means master, means husband, right? Oh, you surpass the Swami. Oh, you become like a prostitute. You're now independent and you're wandering, you're proclaiming yourself the master now. So Vallabha, he was chastened, right? He accepted the chastisement. Does that remember? Did he?
He was chastened, yeah, but not.
Yeah. Pushti Margis. Okay, so takes precedence, but he knows that he's been empowered to do that by those previous acharyas. Another symptom, Mataji.
Holds a unique post.
Okay, so the Swedes speak really good English, so I'm going to test your English. What does unique mean in English? Unique means?
Same word. Unique,
It means unique, right?
It's outstanding.
Oh, you have the same word?
Yeah.
Oh.
Have the same word.
What does it mean? Unparalleled.
One of a kind.
One of a kind. Yes, unique. You don't replace him. You don't replace him. He's always the founder acharya, and you always see everything through his eyes. Of course, Prabhupada writes about how to properly represent him. It's not that we're stuck, we're static. There's always new times, and it has to be presented all over again for the new time, place, and people. But he's always the measure of all teachers and teachings. So sometimes people complain, you mean there can be never another, like Prabhupada, never another Shaktavesh or Nityasiddha or Mahabhagavad, whatever name you want to give to an exalted person. And I always say, no, we need those people. Bring them on. We could use it for a few more Nityasiddhas and Shaktaveshas. But if they're really real, what will they do? They'll be very happy to cooperate with Prabhupada's movement, and they'll just do amazing things. That's all. It's like in our own ISKCON. You see devotees are doing amazing things. According to their level of surrender, they have a certain level of empowerment, and it's amazing what they do. And some of them are right in this room. Whoa. All right. And?
Is the acharya or leader of all Vaishnavas even when physically present?
Yeah, it's not common. So if somebody's really great, very often they're misunderstood in their time. It's not common to really be a legend in his own time. Usually they're persecuted, they're misunderstood. Yeah. But even, and Prabhupada, to protect ISKCON, Prabhupada had to say and publish some pretty heavy things, because he didn't want ISKCON to repeat the mistakes of the past in his own Guru Maharaj's Sangha, the Gaudiya Math. So he knew that because he had to do that, and because some people might take offense at that some people weren't happy with that. But at least at the end of his life, Srila Prabhupada, our founder acharya, he was in a different mood. He was he was Uttama Adhikari coming down to Madhyam to preach. But at the end of his life, he was in an Uttam mood. And not long before he passed away, he said to Bhakti True Maharaj, he said, "You must go and call all my god brothers. I have to apologize to them." Because he knew some of them had been offended by what he felt he had to say and do. So a lot of them came to his bedside, and there was a kind of reconciliation because Prabhupada said, "Please forgive me, I am Mahapatita, I am greatly fallen, I know I've offended you." And so one of the godbrothers said, "Oh, no, you're Mahapatita Pavana. You're the savior of the greatly fallen. You know, you actually did what Guru Maharaj wanted us to do." "No, no," Prabhupada said, "I became very proud of my opulence, so many disciples and Lakshmi and books and temples." "No, no, when you did the full measure of Guru Maharaj's order, all those opulences, they followed you like maidservants. You're our leader. You can chastise us." They were completely disarmed by Prabhupada's humility. So there was a kind of reconciliation there amongst some of the godbrothers at the end. So he was recognized, his contribution as supreme amongst all the disciples. And then Maharaji
awards power of attorney to his followers who strictly adhere to his teachings.
Power of attorney. If I give you power of attorney, what am I giving you? Power of what?
Speak in our behalf?
Yes, you can represent me at the bank or in the courts. You know, whatever you say and do is okay by me. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he pointed out that you can know how great a Vaishnava is by how many others he's empowered to serve Krishna in wonderful ways. And so certainly Prabhupada did that. Like we have this book by our Giriraj Maharaj, Many Moons, right? Many moon-like devotees that Prabhupada has created. And Prabhupada would quote his own Guru Maharaj as saying, "I don't want many stars, if I could just have one moon." But look what Prabhupada did. He created so many moon-like devotees in many generations. You see, they're coming up, in many moon-like Vaishnavas. So, we're going to have Q&A now. I really kind of zipped through that, but because I'm worried about the clock. By the end of the lesson, students will be able to identify organizational, philosophical, cultural, and literary seeds of the Founderacharya principle as they appeared over time in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. We should be able to retell how the Founderacharya phrase finally appeared in the 1930s, identify the foundational role of the Founderacharya in the Vaishnava Sampradayas, and we should be able to identify symptoms of a Founderacharya noted in the Harinama Chintamani. Before I sit down for Q&A, now we're going to actually focus on our Founderacharya, Srila Prabhupada. Transition. Having looked at the origin, characteristics, and historical development of the Founderacharya principle, we are now ready to examine how our Srila Prabhupada emerged as the Founderacharya of a fresh branch of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, which he called ISKCON. It's fascinating, this next lesson, how Lord Chaitanya revealed to Prabhupada his position, and then how Prabhupada gradually revealed that to us. It's really fascinating Vaishnava history. Okay, so I've deliberately left some gaps, so I hope you maybe wondered about some things, because I try to do things in such a way that it provokes questions. So if I can answer them, I certainly will, or I'll refer it to people who do know. Prabhu, let's get the mic. Yeah, here we go. The questions.
So Krishna is investing his powerful devotees to guide fallen souls in the material world. But Srila Prabhupada also he mentioned the statement that we will have a ISKCON in the spiritual world. Could you elaborate a little on that?
Okay, were you here yesterday? No. Okay, yeah, maybe I'm going to put that question on the shelf because when you ask your questions, try to focus your questions on the points of the lesson. That might be a little bit of a side thing. I can try to give you an answer to that, but by contextualizing that remark, for one thing. But how about the founder Acharya points? Okay, here's Devaki Mataji. Hopefully we'll get back to that.
Who is determining who is founder Acharya? Because, Prabhupada introduced the term himself for him, and to imitate this would definitely go the wrong way. So who is establishing who is founder?
Great question, and you're really anticipating the next lesson. But I will tell you one thing to sort of preface that question, the answer to the question. Interestingly enough, and this is also in the Founder Acharya booklet that Ravindra Swarup Prabhu wrote, researched and wrote. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, in that, you saw that harmonist issue where he was referred to as the Founder Acharya of the Gaudiya mission, right? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Now, he allowed himself to be referred to as the Founder Acharya. But interestingly enough, when he would introduce himself, he never referred to himself that way. And there's a couple of reasons. And one is, well, I'm sort of getting ahead of myself, but this really comes out powerfully in Lesson 4. How Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he was the Founder Acharya. He was the person who revived the Gaudiya Sampradaya after it being, eclipsed for hundreds of years. His father did the groundwork, to revive the teaching, but he didn't actually found a movement. He didn't have time to do that, so he prayed for a ray of Vishnu. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta allowed himself to be referred to as the Founder Acharya, but at the same time, you're going to see in Lesson 4 how by the end of his stay on earth, and even before the end, he could foresee, because he was that caliber of a person, Trikalagya, he could foresee what was going to become of his own mission. He could see what was going to happen. That it was going to go, it was going to be spoiled. And you're also going to see how, at least in the person of one of his disciples, he was seeing someone who would be capable of reviving it. This is very interesting. And we have evidence of this from Srila Prabhupada, basically. That's how we know about his Guru Maharaj. So, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he allowed himself to be referred to as the Founder Acharya, but he could see what was going to become of that mission. And also because his father, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when he would talk about the Adyacharya, sometimes he would use that phrase synonymously with Sampradaya Acharya, like those 4 Vaishnava Founder Acharyas of the different lines. They are also referred to by the Thakur as Sampradaya Acharyas. So, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, perhaps he knew that if he referred to himself as the Founder Acharya, that would be considered presumptuous, because people already had it in their minds that a Founder Acharya is like a Sampradaya Acharya. And he wasn't founding a new Sampradaya, he was founding a fresh branch, a continuation of the Gaudiya Sampradaya that had been lost over time. So, but you're going to see more powerfully in the next lesson, Mataji, how Lord Chaitanya revealed to Prabhupada his position as a founder acharya of the fresh branch, and what he had to do to fulfill that role. It happened over about a 5-year period, from 65 to 70, and then it actually continued all through his manifest Leela. Yes.
I heard from Rabindra Prabhu, I don't recall exactly now, but that actually his Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's disciples, they were somehow ready to establish Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati as the founder acharya more like officially, like that. And they would have done that if he would have brought the preaching mission to the West. And then it was when Prabhupada actually did that, and then he took. Is that right? Or did I?
Again, this is next lesson stuff. You'll see it. Prabhupada actually fulfilled that. You're right. By the grace, and you're going to see how, as someone that utterly surrendered and utterly transparent, how he speaks about that. And this is a slide that also Ravindra Swarup presents too. Yeah. And hopefully it'll continue. I mean, we're in an excellent position as Prabhupada's followers, whatever generation or whoever we are, to continue that and not spoil it. You know, we have so much recording. We have so much recorded Vani of Srila Prabhupada and the example of his Rahul. So are we going to do that? I mean, if the Gaudiya Math had followed his instructions, we'd be in that Gaudiya Math, in that Gaudiya mission. There would be no need to found a new branch. But you'll see in the next lesson how Prabhupada was compelled to do what he did. So let's just keep that for the next lesson.
Concerning this issue of the Apasampadayas, and how Lord Chaitanya's mission became covered over for some time. Eclipse. Is this all part, I mean, it must be part of Lord Chaitanya's Leela or something. I can't quite understand. How did this happen? And then Bhaktivinoda revived it as a means of...
This is all the next lesson. You're all beautifully anticipating the next lesson. Yeah, this is the history. Yeah, you'll see. Yeah, it's all part of Lord Chaitanya's plan, really, to do that. First he created a renaissance, and then he let the whole thing be driven underground. Yeah. The Lord works in mysterious ways. Strange and wonderful are the ways of the Lord, right? Yeah, you'll see. You're right.
Well, I'm also saying how sometimes devotees will have doubts. How could this happen? That it's such a powerful, missionary spirit that Lord Chaitanya gave, and the Goswamis clarified and wrote about, and then it went underground.
Yeah, well, you'll see. Yeah, it's part of the Lord's plan. For sure. Okay. Now, yes.
No, just a song.
Okay.
The word Pratishtacharya, is that a direct translation of founder?
Pratishta is foundational, huh? Sometimes you hear that, what do we say? Sometimes we say in ISKCON, Samstapaka. Yeah, right, Samstapako. Yeah, they're establishing eternal religious principles. I'm not a Sanskritist. Is anybody a Sanskritist? You want to parse that word, Pratishta? Pratishta, we're establishing, we're installing the deity, I don't know, I can't speak authoritatively about Pratishta, but I know Samstapaka is the same word, as someone who founds or establishes eternal religious principles. That's part of the Sadgoswami Ashtaka. I thought you were going to ask, I'll bring it up now. What, so how does the Gaudiya, we have these 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas, where do the Gaudiyas, how do they fit in? In that 1930 issue of the Harmonist, when it's introducing Srila Bhakti Siddhanta as the founder Acharya of the Gaudiya mission, it introduces the whole theology. This is Ravindra Swarup's seminar. The whole theology behind the Gaudiya mission, and how in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is who? But in Gaudiya, Lord Chaitanya. He's the avatari. He's the source of all the avatars, right? Okay, and then the other sampradayas, they also have adi gurus, right? So in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, who's the adi gurus of the Sampradaya?
Brahma.
No, in the Gaudiya extension, if you will, of the Brahma Madhva. Who are the adi gurus? The 6 Goswamis. It's like you have Chatusana, you have the 4 Kumaras from, coming from, who was it? Yeah, they're the adi gurus, and then you have Nimbarka being the founder Acharya in that line for our Kali Yuga. And so Lord Chaitanya, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The 6 Goswamis are the adi gurus, and then who's the founder Acharya? Srila Bhakti Siddhanta. Right, that's how it's presented in the Gaudiya Mata literature. But then again, Srila Saraswati Thakur, he could see what was coming, so he didn't, advertise himself as such, although he let himself be referred to as that. Whereas our Prabhupada, again, when he would introduce himself, he would say, "My name is A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, and I'm the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness," because by then he could see what Lord Chaitanya was asking him to do. And you'll see that very dramatically in the next lesson. How when Prabhupada came, he didn't intend to be the founder Acharya of anything. His intention was to revive the Gaudiya mission. But he didn't get any cooperation. So how important is, that's why it was Prabhupada. Prabhupada, he didn't just say that at the end of his life. Your love for me will be shown by how you cooperate. But he was always saying that. In the beginning, in the middle, and the end. Yeah, because that's the only way we can, really take it to every town and village. Mahavishnu Prabhu had a question.
In the United Srila Prabhupada's family, we have, you were referring to the Ramanuja Sampradaya, I believe. They have the spiritual master, he's almost physically present and they worship him, and he's the center of everything. In this time we do have that. We have Prabhupada's Guru Puja every day. We have many things that are Prabhupada-centric, rightfully so.
Right.
And we have all of his teachings in so many different media and formats. So how do we really stay or become united or eliminate division on a very practical level, even more practical than our daily life?
Yes, that's where this seminar goes. I think what I'm going to do is teach lessons 1, 2, 3, 4, and 10, because in the last lesson it's called Your Srila Prabhupada. We look at ways to access our personal foundational relationship with Prabhupada, whatever generation you are. And this goes for me too. What's my identity? Is it that I am Prabhupada's Diksha disciple? I say no. That's not my identity. My identity is that I'm his Shiksha follower. That's what makes me a Prabhupada Nuga. He lives forever by his divine instructions. Certainly the Diksha is divine. It's a divine rite of passage, right? Before the deities and the Vaishnavas in the fire, and we make vows. And it's a very, powerful step. And certainly the Guru's form is divine, because karmana, manasa, gira, body, mind, and words, he's serving Krishna. It's like the iron rod in the fire. But he's especially He lives forever by his divine instructions. So what makes me, a disciple, a follower of Prabhupada, is that I'm trying to follow his instructions. And yes, I'm his initiated disciple. But that's not what makes me a Prabhupada Nuga. Ultimately, you have to follow, right? That's what disciple means, literally, if you go back to the Latin, follower. Someone who follows. Otherwise, it's lip service. So we get into that more and more, but I think in lesson 10, you'll see that. And I just look at some very standard ways. A lot of it can recede over time into lip service. And we don't want Prabhupada to recede over time into the background as a figurehead. Who's, like in America we have, like I mentioned, George Washington, and you have Gustav, what was his name? Yeah, okay. Right, we don't want him to be, just some historical, but he's got no real authority in our lives, We say, okay, take that Guru Puja. What do we say when we're singing to Prabhupada? Chakudam Dilokje, he opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. It's his books we're reading. Janme Janme Prabhu say. Now, Bengali is not my mother tongue. So number one, do I even know what I'm saying, right? Janme Janme Prabhu say, I don't know what I'm saying, unless I think about the translation. Or even if I know it, even if I am Bengali, do I believe that? He is my Lord, birth after birth. He's our foundational spiritual master. He's the person around whom all the other relationships revolve. Many moons around the sun of his foundational position. He's the pivotal person. The Ramanujis get it, the Madhvas get it, we get it too, but we need to get it deeper because we have such challenges, as Pragosh was kind of, talking about this morning too. Especially you see it in Mayapur, which is the most dramatic, powerful statement we're trying to make in that place, building this temple of the Vedic planetarium, temple for a millennium. Well, Maya's not going to take that lion down, and she's not. Lots coming out, right? All the tensions, all the misunderstandings, all the, so we really need to, cooperation is no small thing in the age of non-cooperation, fighting, quarrel, misunderstanding, hypocrisy. So we're okay, we're on the way, but we just need to get it more so it'll last, So I hope we do get some more hints as the lessons go on. It does get more intense. Yeah, the most intense lesson is to love is to cooperate. But I think we're just going to go to your Srila Prabhupada after lesson 4 and try to access that. Okay, Manaji.
Yeah. Question came up during
My question came up during your presentation, but it's not directly referring to the founder Shaya. Should I say it or should I not?
It's about the founder Shaya?
It's not directly related to the
Well, I'll say it and I'll see if it's...
Yes,
how
because you're speaking about how Narottam Das, he was attracted to take Diksha from Lokanath Maharaj, and he went there. And we also have that. We have Prabhupada as a founder Charya, but we have the present persons who accept the role of spiritual master.
Yes.
And it seems here that it was a little more informal. They were studying under and they were attracted and they took that shelter. And our present process, our view, how we view Guruship has evolved. First it was these persons who were designated, and then other persons were designated, and then now it seems to have evolved more into a relationship. You see a person and you serve under him and you develop a relationship, but it's still kind of, it's still certainly presented like that. These are the ISKCON gurus, they are... Is that view changing? Because it seems a little impractical and maybe not exactly correct to say that they are gurus as if it was a position, but more as a relationship. Is that still, work being done on how we pursue that, how we work with that within ISKCON? Who is a guru?
Who was a guru?
Yeah, I mean now it is like somebody, it seems to me that they come to the GBC and then the GBC decides if they can be gurus or not.
Well, it's a collaborative effort, the recurrent system. You know how it works?
Yeah, kind of, but I'm wondering if that is under review, that system, because it seems very different from how Narottam was approaching Lokanath. There was no committee, there was, it was more a relationship and...
Yeah, well, ISKCON is a work in progress, you're right, and the guru-disciple culture is a work in progress in ISKCON. Why? For one reason is, what, Lord Chaitanya and the whole disciplic line is attempting is unprecedented. In many ways, this is uncharted territory, where, for example, in India for thousands of years, you have the village guru, perhaps, and people are hearing from the village guru, and then they're inspired, and then they take diksha, right? Because they're getting the most shiksha from that person. But that village guru wasn't accountable to a GBC. That's one of the central challenges we face in ISKCON. This is very nicely put by Ravindra Swarup Prabhu in that booklet. Our central challenge. What does he say? He says, our central challenge in ISKCON is to integrate the sacred guru-disciple relationship and all of the loyalty and the obedience and the relationship that implies into a worldwide preaching mission where everyone really owes their highest allegiance to the founder Acharya and the system of management that he set up, so that the preaching mission will go on in a united way. It was Bhaktivinoda Thakur who envisioned the GBC. He said, well, this is not one guru or God family's job. This is going to take a coordinated international effort of many gurus, many God families, many disciples, working together. We need a supervisory body for this. So that's a challenge. And that's why, for many years I had this whole lines of authority, thing. So, we are works in progress, and the relationships, I hope I get a chance to tell this story, I don't have time to tell it now. Even within a God family, the relationship that a person will have with their initiating guru and Srila Prabhupada, that will really vary according to the history of how the person has come in to ISKCON, and how it's really Krishna. He's bringing us home through so many agents, right? Krishna is the Adi Guru, if you will. But how to do this cooperatively in a way that's real and sustainable, that's what we're still working through in ISKCON. As I'm sure Niranjan Swami will attest. As I was answering your question, I really wanted to just dump the whole thing in his lap, but anyway, it is unprecedented what we're doing here by Lord Chaitanya's arrangement. And so, that's all I have to say on that. Maharaj, did you want to end on some note on that? Okay.
I'm not here for that.
You want to touch that?
Not in 2 minutes. Not in 2 minutes.
Not in 2 minutes, right? Yeah. Anyway, what we do in this seminar, we kind of revisit the same things over and over again from different angles. So hopefully by the end of at least the half of the lessons that I'll present, you will have some better understanding of these points. Okay, it's 12 o'clock, and I believe Maharaj is scheduled to speak in 15 minutes, is that it?
No.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so let's end. And please come tomorrow at 10:30 for Srila Prabhupada, our founder Acharya. How Prabhupada fulfilled that role like no one ever has, as far as we know. Srila Prabhupada,